Hello, everyone. It seems like we haven't spoken to you in one day, but we missed you. So we invited a friend along. We have TTRPG journalist. What a cool title. Linda Codega from Gizmodo, from IO9, and they have been very, very busy. They're flying all over the country.
That's me.
They're talking the Critical Role. They're breaking stories left and right.
On occasion.
How have you been? How's your new year?
How's my year been? My year has been, gosh, busy. It's still fucking January, man. Fuck. It's been a hell of a year. Linda, it's only January.
Well, that's okay. You still got another 11 and a half months to go.
Yeah, I'm sure nothing important or cool or fun or interesting will happen in 11 and a half months, Steven.
Well, I do like whenever you write your tweets, you're like, I'm getting on a plane. I hope nothing interesting happens while I'm on the plane. And then they dropped they dropped the OGL statement. I was like, oh, poor Linda. But we picked up the slack for you. Like,
so
we
do you
live.
have any amount of guessing from sources that you're doing this at a good time for it to always happen, or you just have really bad luck?
I just have bad timing. But you know what they say, comedy is all about timing.
That's true.
That's true.
So depending on how you look at it, maybe I have great timing. I'm super glad that my tweets are popping off the way they are because
now everyone's following you, and
funny.
And actually, you probably are going to even have more credibility because then I just read that Washington Post was getting rid of their video game division reporters or something like that.
Yeah, they're shutting down their video game vertical entirely. So they don't have any, they will have only freelance coverage, I'd assume. I don't know what the plan is there, but the fact is that video games are $200 billion industry, and the Washington Post isn't covering it. Make it make sense. It make sense. Magic the Gathering is $1 billion industry all on its own. We're not even talking about all the other trading card games that are out there. Ridiculous. So I have no idea what they're thinking, but it's not smart.
Why is the Washington Post getting rid of their video games reporting while the Times not only has a game subscription that's part of it, but then put out an article recently that was just until the last few years, games was something that only small children have played or something like that. I remember seeing that in the New York Times.
Well, yeah, I just saw that. Well, Mark, I identify as a small child, and I play video games.
So I think it's one of those things where when it comes to the New York Times in general, they feel the need to, and a friend said this, so I cannot claim ownership of this quote, but they feel the need to explain America to Americans in a way that is very boomer oriented. And I'm just that's exactly it. And it's one of those things where they're almost afraid to acknowledge that other people exist. And I personally think that might have been an editorial add-on afterwards, because I'm the writer is literally 30. The writer is younger than I am. And saying stuff like video games are for children, and I'm we all remember LAN parties at college. What are you saying?
I mean, yeah, video games,
I don't know,
I think make more money than movies and TV combined. They make more money than just about most. I haven't looked at the latest numbers, but they passed them a long time ago. And the thing with the video games is they make their money very quietly, as opposed to television movies, especially movies who announce their constant money making, how much they make. There's whole websites dedicated where you can look it up to the penny of how much everything makes. But video game companies are very quiet on these things. So,
so Jessica Redikoff is in chat, and she said that the NPR TTRPG squad has now assembled from the the meme with the three hands clutching each other that was on Twitter.
Not me.
No, not you, Stephen. You're not part of the squad. It was me and Jessica and Linda are the squad, because Linda's going to be on soon.
I'm jealous.
Jessica and I were on about unionization of tabletop RPGs.
I know. I'm jealous. No, I've never been an NPR. I've been in New York Times a couple times, but not the same.
Yeah.
Not the same.
I've never been anything. I was on Polygon once, but that was because I was raving to Joshua Rivera about how hot Aragorn was. So I'm on record. Like there's a Polygon article out there that's just like, Linda Codega wishes that they could be Aragorn. I'm just like, damn straight. Have you seen that man open a door? Perfection. Like, absolutely, Linda wants to be Aragorn.
So tell us just a little bit about yourself, because people probably never heard of you, no offense, until about 2 weeks ago, and now everyone knows your name.
There's no reason to have heard of me. I am a lowly entertainment journalist toiling on the breaking news team who very occasionally like forces their editor to like give them op-ed assignments and like investigations. So it has been pretty wild. Anyway, my name is Linda Codega. I use they, them pronouns. I'm non-binary. I have been writing about tabletop games for about 3 to 4 years professionally. I've been playing tabletop games, I think 15 years. I think I like got my first game when I was like 15, 16 or something. But I was on like role-playing forums as like a kid, like a 10-year-old child. So I've been playing role-playing games for 2 decades. So that's always really fun. It's just like, yeah, you know, I pretended to be like from the Water Nation online for like a solid 3 years. It was great. And yeah, I also write games, which I randomly have one on my desk because I was showing someone else the other day. I write games. I write short stories. I'm a Hugo nominated first reader for Strange Horizons. And I write novels. And one of my novels is on submission right now. So if any editors are in the stream, buy my book.
I'm an editor.
Can you traditionally publish my novel?
No,
anyway. Not traditionally. we can non-traditionally. But
anyway,
yes,
that's me, guys. I'm just a big old nerd who happened to get a very big scoop and decided to milk it for all it was worth and report on it until I died.
Fair enough. I mean, I feel like you're one of like 2 or 3 tabletop RPG reporters who I knew even before this. That's why I reached out to you about that one article that you wrote a little bit about Battlezoo Eldamon. But I feel like at this point, people are paying more attention to tabletop news reporting just in general, since now Wall Street investors are looking at it and all of the mainstream news.
Well, also,
yeah, it's like people finally realize that like adults spend money, I guess. News like more at 11. Adults spend money on games.
Also, I think people are looking for trusted sources, because it's one thing to just talk about rumors and speculation, especially something as big as this. And I think they're looking towards, just to rehash the quick history, it's like you got the scoop around the same time we did that Wednesday, and we read it on live on air, and a lot of people didn't believe us, because it seemed outrageous. But then your story came out and it pretty much matched exactly what we said, and there was credence, and people now believed it, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for real news, real journalism, looking for people to verify that this isn't just rumored speculation.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things where I think that citizen journalism that like you guys do and other people do on YouTube is a very good way to get stuff out there immediately. But I think that there's still a lot of benefit in like the traditional journalism that I do, just because like Gizmodo's a huge media company. I have like tons of lawyers. I have like 2 editors. I have like people on my side helping me out. And the fact that my name is on all of those bylines about tabletop role-playing games really doesn't sell the fact that like it's such a team effort. Like on that end, like I turn in copy, my editor gets back to me, we talk to social media, we talk to like our audience development team, like we talk to the lawyers at Gizmodo. And the fact that there is that like whole machine means that it takes longer for us to get stuff out, but it tends to lend a little bit more credibility to it without having to prove ourselves the way that a lot of other people have to do.
Mm-hmm. No, it's been great, and the people at Gizmodo are doing a good job, because that stuff comes out fast. So your editor and lawyers are looking at improving this stuff very quick.
They are very grateful.
I
do not write short articles. I said like 3,000 word articles, and they're like, Linda, and I'm just like, if you didn't want me to say all this, why did you put me on this beat?
I do have a question. A very important one. Who does the graphics for your articles?
Yeah, so we got a new art director. Her name is Vicky Letta, and she did all of the really cool dragons that you see on all those articles, and the like splitting D&D Beyond Arrow article. Just the other day, my editor-in-chief was like, if you guys know any cool designs for t-shirts, like based on headlines or articles, and I like immediately reminded him, I'm like, these dragons are fucking sick.
Yeah, I think those will go a very long way, especially at conventions where geeks like to buy shirts. Like yourself, I see. What are you sporting there?
I have a Garbage Pail Kid shirt for Evil Eve, and it says the Binding of Isaac.
I can't believe Garbage Pail Kids are still around. They were around when I was a kid.
Yeah, well, they're silly, and I love them.
Oh,
and
I love them too.
I have a Garbage Pail Kid tarot deck.
Wow.
That's
which I'm
cool.
all about.
That's very, very cool. So how has this been? Like, I mean, are you getting sleep, or are you just having to sort through hundreds of emails? Like, what's been your process been? Because like someone like me, I had connections already, and we're just talking to people, and whispers, and people are telling us things, and we're able to confirm with other people. But you, I presume, must have a fire hose at you right now of information.
Yeah, there is a lot going on. I'm pretty organized just in general. Like, this is my planner for last week.
Well,
yeah. And I'm like still filling out my planner for this week. It's getting there. So luckily I'm pretty organized with my planners. I have like a couple different notebooks, and sort of each, like I have different sections labeled in the notebook for this like active investigations I'm working on. I am sort of like sorting and filing everything as I go. So it's a huge amount of information, and it is a huge amount of like interviews that are happening. But luckily I'm able to sort of get it sorted a little bit. But yeah, sleep has become a distant memory, a forgotten treasure that I maybe will find one day, like the Arkenstone or something. But it is doubtful. There's a big dragon in the way. I think that I've mostly been managing decently, but I'm like, my work-life balance is suffering, and I would love to get some equilibrium soon. Like, I'm so soon. Please, it needs to be soon.
Well, 6th edition, it's planning on coming out in 2024, so just hang in there for another year and a half.
Nothing is going to happen in between now and 6th edition. Surely not. They wouldn't dare.
Well, on top of that, I clicked on your name, and you're like, you have other articles. Like, this is the only thing you cover. I was like, They are very busy.
Yeah. I mean, I still work at a breaking news desk along with everyone else at IO9. And yeah, I just released an interview today with Tanya DePass, who's known as Cyphered Her, because she is the co-developer on the 5th season RPG that just got put on BackerKit. So yeah, I did that interview last week. I wrote about the new Honor Among Thieves trailer. Basically anything. Yeah, I still work at breaking news desk in between investigations. So it's been a lot.
Yeah, but this is one of those rare times. How many journalists' names do people know firsthand? And everyone knows your name. It's got to be nice.
It's very flattering.
It's got to be a little nice.
It's really nice. It's one of those things where I am incredibly grateful for the attention that this story has gotten, much more so than I am like, oh, thank goodness everyone knows I'm attached to it. But it's super nice. Like, I'll fully admit, like, I'm like, this is pretty cool. But yeah, it's one of those things where I am doing my best to not let all of the attention affect my work. And I'm also doing my best to not let all of that attention affect my goals and my plans, because I am very, very aware that like something like this is very unlikely to happen again. I'm not ruling it out, but like I cannot expect to replicate this kind of immediate, incredible impact, probably like maybe ever. So it's one of those things where I'm just like, this is pretty cool, but like, it's got to keep going.
Yeah.
I guess like the fact that this happened here and that you are more well known does mean that if there are shady things happening in the background, people are more likely to be like, oh wait, well we can maybe leak something and Linda Codega can do a good like journalistic take on it.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That's like one of the things that I really hope happens because of all of this attention, is that people recognize that there are people like me, not just me, but people like me out there, that if like someone has a problem with their company, or their company is having problems, or like something big is being covered up, like if there's, you know, abuse happening, or like people aren't unionized, or like the union is getting fucked, like any one of those things that are like problems for people like within an industry are probably going to be problems for people outside of the industry. So genuinely, I really hope that people feel like they can talk to someone outside of their little bubble of industry to get attention to it, and like seeing how Dungeons and Dragons reacted to this pressure, maybe get some of that pressure on their industries as well.
I think some people are like scared or worried like that their name will get out. So one thing that I think is going to, if there's a next time, people are going to see, well, you know, you were very careful, you did everything right, and nobody ever found out who it was, maybe. So in that case, that might make people less scared in the future to be like, okay, this is someone I can trust is going to keep me confidential.
Yeah, it is also one of those things that I think people are always very afraid in the moment of having their identity associated with it. But I think that associated with anything, but I think that if you go to a journalist who will do their job correctly, like not just me, like any journalist who will do their job correctly, like there are protections in place, like freedom of the press is a thing. Like you can go to the press, you are allowed. It's in the Constitution. Like freedom of the press is a thing. And it's like, unless you're dealing with like state secrets, no one is like the investigation into like who leaked to this press or this reporter are usually just like, they usually just don't happen. I'm not saying that the risk isn't there, but I think that the risk often feels much more personal than it might actually be.
Yeah. I mean,
I agree.
I think the best thing about this story is that even as little as 2 or 3 weeks ago, or even a few months ago, people were the one thing I've noticed, everyone I've talked to, they're all very scared. Like they're scared.
Of course they are.
Yeah, but they feel
they should be a little scared because things are uncertain.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, of course, people are scared. Of course, people are upset. And that's, that's the way that it goes. Like, everyone's individual, like, people put their livelihoods at stake to talk to the press. And I, can respect that. And I understand that it's not an easy decision. Yeah, so I'm not surprised that most people that I've ever talked to, like, whenever I talk to anonymous sources, yeah, the reason they're anonymous is because they're scared, because they're putting something at risk by talking to me. And I never take that for granted. And I always really try to respect the fact that people are risking something to speak to me. And that's there's no greater honor a journalist could have, I guess.
But the one nice thing is that I think the community coming together has been giving people armor to speak to people like you and feel like, wow, all these people have my back, and Linda's doing, honorable reporting, so I can give them information, and it's not going to be one-sided, that it's something that will get out there, and then we'll see what happens. So
yep, that's it. It's one of those things, I can only do my job to the best of my ability, and fingers crossed the community picks it up. But it really is the incredible movement of the incredible resolve of the tabletop role-playing game space across all the different tabletop communities that put such huge pressure on Dungeons and Dragons, and that's really what caused the change.
So if people have specific questions for Linda, feel free to ask them in the
super chats.
We have a few in the super chat. Only 2, I think. So
yeah,
far.
Well, there's one that just said that's a lot of new Eldamon artwork, because there's Eldamon artwork in the border. But then the question I saw, which is I'm pretty sure you're not going to be able to answer, is someone June Solar for $10 said, "Can you give any of the questions that you were prevented from asking Critical Role to the PR person?"
Can I?
Well, let me ask you a different way, maybe.
Maybe?
Were you prevented from asking questions, or would you just ask questions they just wouldn't answer them?
I asked some questions, and just as Matt and Marisha were either thinking about it or looking a little confused, the PR person would speak up and be like, "We're not answering that question."
Fair enough.
So it wasn't they told me not to ask questions, or they were like, "You need to pre-submit questions." It was very much I was sort of asking some really tough questions at the moment. I can tell you some of the one of the questions that was denied was about contracts.
And I'm not just surprised that was denied.
Yeah, so I mean, that's one of the things. I'm just I asked about contracts, and the PR person was like, "Absolutely not." And I'm just like, okay, let's talk about unions. So,
but at least they didn't give you a pre-approval list or something. I mean, that at least shows integrity on their part, that they let you ask the questions, even if they don't answer them. They at least let you ask them, which is nice.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where Critical Role, and we talked about this before the stream, but Critical Role are consummate professionals. These are guys who have been in Hollywood for years. They have been working with Critical Role for a decade. They are so buttoned up. They are so tight. We had a great time on the interview that we had together, but these guys walking a line, and they are so good at it. It's pretty incredible. So I think that the interview will be very interesting, if only because people will be able to see them this is how someone walks a fucking line. It's pretty incredible. It really is.
When is that going live? Do you know when your interview is going up?
We're trying to get it out in full tomorrow.
Okay.
but we don't know for sure when it's going up. Yeah, my team is small. My video team is small. Like, God bless them. But they're working very hard to get the whole thing up.
That's fair.
So June for $10 responded and said, if you had been able to get an answer for your contract question, it would have cleared the air, but not answering leaves ambiguity.
Yeah, I think it's also like we're going to have to read in between the lines a lot with this interview. I think that not answering is definitely ambiguous, but I think like that's on purpose, you know? I think that they have to be ambiguous at this point because as far as everyone knows, including me and everyone else, there are contracts and they are still in effect. And who knows? It's one of those things where it's just like they didn't say that the contracts would be staying. They also didn't say the contracts wouldn't be staying. So like anything. But it's also one of those things where it's just like the fact that these people are not unilaterally siding with Wizards of the Coast, even though they have these contracts, I think is also something to consider.
That makes sense. There's a few people who have who seem to be asking about a line in one of the recent articles about cutting losses based on Wizards strategy, and they're wondering like what you meant by cutting losses. One person gave an example. Does that mean just not buying D&D and going to a different brand, or what did you mean by that?
Yeah, so this was a tweet that got a lot of attention. Mostly I wanted to ask people, like individual people to consider, like, it's clear to me based on the concessions in 1.2 and the fact that they're splitting it between OGL 1.2 and Creative Commons license, that they are making an attempt towards goodwill. And I think that I want people to consider whether they're willing to engage with Wizards in good faith. And if they can do that, considering what Wizards tried to do with the 1.1. So it's one of those things I'm like, yes, you could try to make the bed and get back in it, but do you really want to try and get back in bed with Wizards when the risk is so high that they could do it again? Like, there's nothing stopping them from doing all of this again. And so I think it's
kind of like the difference between a frog just letting an unknown insect go on its back across the river, or the frog and then the insect says, hey, actually I'm a scorpion, just so you know I'm a scorpion, right? Will you let me it's fine, I won't sting you though, I'm gonna be nice.
Yeah, so it's very much along those lines. And when I say cut your losses, I sort of mean like, when will people like, what will it take for people to accept that Wizards of the Coast has changed and like, oh yeah, like they've changed, I'm going to sign the 1.2, or I'm going to like sign on to the 1.2? Or at what point will you like personally, individually decide like, I'm not going to support Wizards anymore? You know, there are better companies, there are better companies, air quotes. There are different companies, there are more companies, there are other companies that are not trying to fuck over fans like this. So I think it's really an individual thing that I'm just sort of asking people to think about, like, will Wizards ever earn your trust back? ? And will you get back into bed with Wizards of the Coast? ? And will you divest your money and your time and your energy from Wizards of the Coast if they decide not to play ball?
That makes sense.
It really is one of those things like, I go by the old adage, like, fight for the best, prepare for the worst. And I think that that's really all I'm saying here, guys. I promise. It's like, fight for what you want to do. Fight for like the concessions you want. Fight if you want them to go back to 1.0, or if you want them to sign on to the orc, or like whatever you guys want, like, fight for it. But recognize where your fight ends.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this before the stream, is that, they try so hard, but then they do little things like say OGL 1.1 was a draft, or that spell animation effects are NFTs, and they lose us. It's like you're not treating us like intelligent adults. You're trying to, you can't try to sneak anything in, and that stuff is just insulting. So it's hard for us to trust you when you're continuously giving us reasons not to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we got a super chat, and
Austin Eschweller for $2 and said WotC lost me as a customer. Paizo got me. There seem to be some other similar sentiments to that when you said, Linda, where's your line and what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is not. Guys, I'm not asking you to give a fight, I promise. I tend to tweet out from my bed at like 7 a.m. when like my dog is howling and trying to get me to go out. And I'm just like, no, I don't want to like walk zigzag right now. Let me like tweet. So it's one of those things where it might not have been worded the best way, but yeah, just like find your lines, find your boundaries, find like when will you consider yourself satisfied? And if you do not find satisfaction, what will you do?
So, by the way, I just want to say, someone mentioned here that Fern Lovebond said 1.1 was a draft as it included placeholder markers. Not true. It was attached to executable contracts, and as someone with extensive knowledge of contract law, you can put placeholders in contracts as long as both people acknowledge what they are, and that's usually for either something like a rate, like if you're doing a contract based on like an interest rate or something, those can be placeholders. So, or URLs for websites. So that is allowed. So don't be mistaken to think just because there were placeholders that this was a draft. It was not a draft. Very important.
Legally, I have to call it a draft because it was unpublished.
Correct.
Sorry, guys.
Right.
I have to call it a draft.
You can. Yes. And maybe that's...
You can call it whatever you want.
Right. I think they have been continuously calling it a draft for legal reasons.
Sure.
But fine. I'll even give them that. But calling a spell animation an NFT.
I mean, they didn't call us spell animation and NFTs.
Yeah, they did.
Hold on. They did a lot of weird things at one point.
What did they say? They did have the NFT.
They did
in
not
there.
say that it was the same as an NFT. They just kind of equated them by being like, there's all sorts of things that people can do that just will make it a video game, such as spell animations and NFTs.
Oh, okay. But still, they grouped those together. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident. Anyhow, we have another question.
Yeah, we had a few more, but we have one more follow-up from a super chat on this same topic. Climbing that mountain said for $2, yes, divest from Hasbro now. But
yeah.
Then
Sick.
there's
fucking do it.
Yeah.
Sable Phoenix. Sable Phoenix for $10. And then in another follow-up, clarified later, so I will try to read these two together because of that fact. Asked, have you, Linda, done any digging into Cynthia Williams, who used to work in finance for Philip Morris, the archetypical evil corporation? And then the follow-up was, not to be vindictive, but this whole mess makes it clear that... Oh, my thing froze. This happens sometimes. This whole mess makes it clear that Cynthia Williams has to go. From your journalistic perspective, is there any way to use any connection to the cigarette company history that might provide leverage? I'm doubting that, but you can tell me.
I have not really looked into Cynthia Williams, as she's not really associated with some of the investigations I'm doing. Simply because she doesn't really do a lot with Wizards of the Coast and doesn't really do a lot with Dungeons and Dragons. As it stands, she's a very, very much an executive's executive. Like her job is dealing with shareholders. Her job is dealing with executives. Her job is like being the muckiest mucky muck to ever muck. So
she's the public face.
Right. So right now, no, I have not done any digging into Cynthia Williams. It maybe if it comes up that like she's involved in something, but as of right now, no.
That makes sense. Here's
Mhm.
one that is maybe more connected to D&D stuff. Drunken Yoda for 49 Mexican pesos said, could this whole mess cost Chris Cow his job?
Who's to say?
Yeah, who's to say?
Yeah,
Who's to
I
say?
don't think any of us has really any information on that.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things like this whole thing has been such a disaster for Wizards of the Coast that if people did eventually get fired for one reason or another related to this, I wouldn't be surprised. But to directly ask, like, could this cost Chris Kowska job? I have no idea. Who knows? Like maybe, but like also maybe not.
Right. Ryan Schenk for $5 says, are there any like leaks or scoops on this that you wish you could have reported on but couldn't? If so, what are some reasons you were unable to write about them?
I can't actually answer that because I am pursuing ongoing investigations.
That makes sense to me. I figure a lot of these are going to be things that you're not always going to be able to answer, but we'll give it a shot with the super chats.
I'm here to do it. I'm happy to answer questions if I can and explain why I can't if I can't.
So Clara Olson for $4.99 is answering your question of where the line is. For Clara, the authorization is their line. SRD and CC won't bring the non-SRD content from open gaming content back. 1.0A wasn't a Wizards product license.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what they do with that deauthorization language and what will happen afterwards.
So let me ask you a question before we continue with the super chats. What was your reaction when you first got the OGL 1.1 and read it over and maybe started to talk with Gizmodo lawyers and started to find out exactly what this meant? Like, what was your thought process?
Well, it's so wild. It's so silly. So I when Open D&D first started, again, late November 2022, December 2022, that's when I first started digging into the OGL and really rereading that document because I've never really used the OGL before. I'm an independent game writer, so like all of the licenses I use are Creative Commons and share alike. So that's when I first started like really reading into the OGL and getting the history of it. So when the 1.1 came into my little inbox, I just sort of like sat there for a few minutes and I was like, well, this is different. This sure changes things. So I reread that a few times. I immediately, after, about like 10 minutes of being like, what the fuck is this? And doing like some like quick verification stuff. I talked to my editor and I was like, hey, I think that I've got like a big scoop. I think that I need to focus on something for like maybe the afternoon, like give me a minute to look into this. And he was like, fine, but you need to turn in your Rock copy first. And I'm like, all right. So I was writing about like how the Rock tweeted or something. I'm still on the Rock beat. I want everyone to know that I have not escaped the Rock beat. I'm still writing about the Rock, whatever he tweets. It's the worst thing in the world.
Let the record show.
Let the record show.
That you love the Rock.
The thing is, I don't love the Rock very much, and everyone knows it. Like, oh gosh, yeah, it's a whole mess. So my editor was like, turn in your Rock copy, come back to this. And I'm like, okay. So I come back to it, and that's when I like pinged my editor-in-chief, who's David Ewalt. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He actually wrote a book on D&D. So I'm really lucky that like my editor-in-chief knows how important it was and like was like so fully in my corner. And he was really just like, get it, like go after this, do whatever you have to do. And I'm just like, sick, let's do it. Gotta make some companies pay. Like power of the moon. Yeah, power of the moon. Anyway, yes. So my editor-in-chief was just like, go forth. And I'm like, sick. So we talked to Art. Art whipped something up really fast. Again, Vicky Letta, amazing artist. She whipped something up really fast. I talked to audience. I talked to social. I think I was working that night until like 8 or 9 o'clock, probably a little later. And then I woke up early around like 6 or 7 to keep working and tweaking it and making sure everything was ready for the release. So it was really just like kind of a nonstop 12 hours in between me getting it and it releasing and like the initial blowover to really begin. And then it was another like 12 hours of my editor, James Whitbrook, a darling, who was just like, so this is really a thing, huh? And I'm like, James, this is so much of a thing. You don't even know. So it really was just like a whirlwind of my editor being like, okay, do whatever you need to do. Like, don't talk to me until you need to talk to me. And I'm like, great. And my editor-in-chief being like, I'm here to support you, whatever you need. And I'm like, great. So a team effort. But yeah, it was really just an intense whirlwind the whole time. And I was lucky enough that when I got the 1.1, because of what I had researched in 2022, I immediately understood why it was so important and why it was so damaging to creators in the community.
Mm-hmm. And then after the story broke, and I don't know, every single news organization on Earth linked to your article. I imagine your editor-in-chief was pretty happy.
He's very excited. I know that. So at the end of the month, we get like an email where it's like every single link back from our company, from like all of our sites. Like the Geo sites include The Onion and Lifehacker and like Jalopnik and Deadspin and Jezebel. So like Geo owns all of those sites. And we get like this monthly email with all of the link backs from all the sites. And I'm like, I am so excited to get that email. I've never been more excited.
Well, just, break the story of the century. It's, but you have to be, I mean, I know it's a lot of work and it's like long nights and it seems endless, but you also have to be pretty happy and proud of like, I mean, the community reacted to your article in such a positive way, using it as a rallying cry. I know there's pockets here and there that don't want to believe it still, and they're angry. The old "don't shoot the messenger," they're angry with you, but you have nothing to do with this. It's like you're just saying, like, this is what they're doing. This is I'm just reporting it, and it is what it is. But a lot of people have been using you as the rallying cry. You even got a little. You were a little Avenger. Who were you? Were you Scarlet Witch, I think, in that animation?
Oh, yeah. Wait. I remember because they included IO9 and Gizmodo, and I'm like, they're the same thing, but it doesn't matter if I can be 3 superheroes.
Oh, no, you were Curie?
Yes, we were. It was right. T'Challa, Shuri, which IO9 and Gizmodo, and then I was Mantis, which is...
Mantis, that was it.
Which I'll accept, but like, I personally think that I would be Carol, but... Okay.
I got Drax. I like
nice.
Nice. Everyone likes Drax.
Yeah.
So we have. Do you want to go back to some of the super chats?
Yeah. Okay. Chase Street was still talking about like the line in the sand and what to do, and saying that they run Pathfinder 2e and 5e. Pathfinder is their personal choice, and that like it was a mistake for WotC because third-party creators can make better books than Wizards. Let's see. People are saying that Linda has spicy takes. Nick,
I think people don't realize that like I'm kind of like mean. I know that I'm coming off as very friendly in this case, but I think that I live by the old adage, don't talk shit unless you can't get shit thrown back at you, So generally when people are aggressive towards me, I tend to like be aggressive back. It's one of those like it's the balancing act of like take no shit and also take no shit personally.
Well, it's like the first time I met you, I thought you were a native New Yorker, so which you were both you were very happy and horrified with.
Yeah, I'm from the South. So someone telling me that like, oh, you're just like a native New Yorker. I'm like, No,
Well,
it's really just like the southern part of me that's like, we talk shit, but like behind closed doors. Suddenly I'm just talking shit out in the open and I'm just like so free.
do you have some
So
more? Or
let's
do you need me
see.
to help you with some of
No,
these
I've got
chats?
him.
Okay.
Nick Seidler for $10 said that Wizards' dishonesty is sad, suggesting that one needs to deauthorize OGL 1.0a to make adjustments when they themselves move from 1.0 to 1.0a shows that it does not need to be done. Shame on them. This is more of a comment. Let's see. Faisal Mirza for $5 said, the problem for me is Wizards has been so exploitative that even if I am satisfied now, I'm convinced they will stab me in the back later when able. I think that's definitely a concern because some of the things that I personally am concerned with in 1.2 are not things that it says now, but things that knowing what I do about what they wanted to do in 1.1, that I feel like they have a pretty good chance of having loopholes that allows them to do with 1.2, like sever it or terminate it for somebody they didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I find the morality clause like relatively reprehensible, but I find the intent of it to prevent more bigoted content from getting out there. I'm like, the intent is honorable, but like at what cost? Like who's going to be I don't trust Wizards to be that, moderator. I think that like saying we don't want bigoted content, we don't want you to use our product to make bigoted content. I'm like, that's fair, but also like you guys are so bad at this.
Plus, there's hundreds
guys
of
are so bad at
years
this.
of copyright and IP law already covering this. They don't need a morality clause. It's a method of control, in my
I
opinion.
hope that the intent is to stop bigoted content, but I really
I
don't
don't
know
think it is.
because some of the terms they're using there, like obscene, are often used to stop LGBTQ content from coming out there by other people. And even if Chris Cower, whoever put that in, is like, no, I really don't mean that. I really am only going to stop bigoted content. If that's in the contract and say Elon Musk buys the company or somebody else, they could use it for that same purpose.
It's like, yeah, it's not good. Like what they're doing is like not good. But I admire when any big company takes a stand against bigotry, even if they take a stand imperfectly. And luckily, the 1.2 isn't passed yet. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So building Persephone for £2 said, is there anything to the Alta Fox connection?
Is there? It's a good question.
There you go.
I mean, I think 100%, but that's my opinion.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Smith's government class had an isekai question that said, all three of us are hit by a Wizards of the Coast truck. We wake up in the Pathfinder world of Golarion. What is our ancestry, background, and class? No takebacks.
Whoa.
I don't play Pathfinder.
It could be race.
I barely play Dungeons and Dragons.
Then make it a game that you play. You went through a portal and wake it up in the game that you like, the world that you want to be in. We wake up in Golarion, you wake up in X.
Gosh. Okay, you guys go first. I'll think about it.
Oof. Well, I already know what I'm going to be, Mark.
What are you going to be?
Yes.
Oh, for the people asking questions, AltaFox is a capital investment firm that has stake in Hasbro.
And made a huge stink about making WotC, the device, break off into its own company because they've been propping up Hasbro. There's a lot of information on this. We could spend all day talking about this. You can look it up. It's very interesting. But this is kind of the beginning of where people are realizing, holy moly, Magic and Wizards and D&D make most of the money for Hasbro.
Makes so much money.
72%. And people are now paying very close attention to this. So,
Steven, I don't know what you're going to say. Are you going to be an Orpak as your ancestry?
I'm going to be a dragon.
Oh, well, I didn't know if you were going to be a dragon or
Of
not.
course, I'll be a dragon.
Are you going to be a havoc dragon then? The ones that are the hot mess of all dragons?
No, I like a havoc dragon because they're a hot mess, but I will be an indigo dragon because I want to party.
What's your class going to be then?
That's a good one. Probably monk. Even though I would like to do magic, but I'm either a monk or a pet class. I haven't played druid yet myself, and we haven't had a druid in any of the games I've played, so I'm not exactly sure how it plays. But we have a lot of monks, and I like how monks play. And magic is cool, but I kind of like monkitude. I like running fast and getting 5 actions when you're hasted, which is awesome. Background, I'm not as familiar with the backgrounds.
Well, Steven, you have every background known to like mortal kind, so you probably just have them all.
Oh yes, you made me a custom character, and you gave me a background.
I made you a custom. I did. Yes. Ice-T Von Ghoul Liquor.
Right.
Was that a monk? Was Ice-T Von Ghoul Liquor a monk? I can't remember. I can look that up.
I would be the master of all trades background.
See what we get.
That would be like
there you go, master of many styles.
Yeah,
that's a type of monk. So you could be that.
There you go.
For me, I think I would wizards are like the nerds of understanding magic. So that's probably me. I mean, literally the example spellbook in the core rulebook for Pathfinder is called Structure and Interpretation of Magic. And I took a class at MIT that was Structure and Interpretation of Computer Science. So like, that's probably my class. I might also be a dragon. There's just a lot of dragons. And why wouldn't you want to be a dragon? Why wouldn't
you be a dragon?
In disguise as a human, you can just have the best of both worlds in that scenario, I think.
Once you go dragon, you never go back.
So what about you, Linda? I'm gonna try to find the thing I made for Steven.
Okay. I'm gonna use the Magpie Games Avatar role-playing game.
Fair enough.
So I would be a swamp bender.
Whoa.
I'd be a swamp, like one of the water benders from the swamp in the Earth Kingdom.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I would probably be the Razor. The Razor is a class that is they were raised to be a weapon, but they've seen a better way forward, and now they're like doing their own thing. That's that. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I found Ice-T Von Ghoul Liquor.
No, we don't have enough time.
A Dompier human gladiator with the class of Battle Zoo fighter, and the weapon is Skyscraper plus 16 to hit. And there's a long convoluted background about Ice-T Von Ghoul Liquor in there.
Anyhow, on to the next super chat as everyone's eyes are glazing over.
So it is from, it was just a $10 chat with no comments on it that were from Colin Worcester. Then Carpe Donnelly for $9.99 said, have you or your colleagues spoken in any capacity to Chris Perkins? A guy like him being caught in this crossfire has to be brutal. If so, what is his current headspace?
I'll say on the record that Dungeons and Dragons does not give out interviews. Not to me, not to anyone. So I've never spoken with any of those guys except in like press junkets for releases. So I have gotten to speak to them, but like it was one of those things where it's like you ask one question and then like the next reporter asks another question. So no, Dungeons and Dragons doesn't give out individual interviews. They just don't.
I will tell you, back in the 4E days, it was really easy to talk to Chris. Like he was very reachable back then. I can't imagine why they buttoned up since.
Oh no.
It might have been the money.
Might have been, you think?
Might be the money.
Might be.
Yeah.
So Goofy Geek with a 3 for $5 is, I think, trolling you a little by wants to know about The Rock. Does The Rock play D&D? Inquiring minds want to know.
Would that change your opinion of him if you had to write an article about The Rock playing D&D?
Nah, man. Some gamers are shitty.
Wow. You are tough.
Listen, man, just because you do something cool doesn't mean you're cool. I think he does, actually. I think The Rock does play D&D.
He has said he has.
I've
Yeah.
heard that he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I think so. He's not in the D&D movie. That's all I care about right now.
That is a big secret in Hollywood. I know there's tons and tons of Hollywood role-playing D&D games. Like, they play a lot. Like, quite a bit.
Because they're all actors and they're obsessed with themselves. Like,
And-
of course they all play D&D.
Of course
like,
they do.
Duh.
Yeah, no, a lot of them
Doesn't
do.
surprise me at all.
And MMOs. That's the other thing, because they're, they can actually go on and no one knows who they are. That's a big thing. Like, all these famous people playing these type of games.
I remember during lockdown, Elijah Wood was talking about Animal Crossing, and like there was a whole thing where like people, like famous people, would go on to like Animal Crossing talk shows. Like Danny Trejo went on like a talk show at his Animal Crossing avatar, and I was like, I've gone into another universe. This is a parallel dimension. None of this is real.
Well, Elijah Wood I can see, but Danny Trejo, even I like take pause at that one. I'm like,
I know, right? I was just like,
really? He's in his 70s. He's been to prison. He's covered in tattoos. He seems like the toughest MF in the world, and he's like, let me go fishing with my little Animal Crossing guy. I know.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm sure.
So Sean Van Toyle for $5 says, "Hey Linda, inquiring minds want to know what's going on with those vampires."
The vampires are fucking. For those of you guys who don't know, I write a lot of fan fiction, and some of it tends to be smutty. The vampires in my most recent fanfic are currently in the act of coitus.
There you go.
There you go.
They're having a blast.
Inquiring minds did want to know.
Inquiring minds want to know. You know what? I have very little shame. I'm cringe, but I am free. Fan fiction is really fun, and I just like it when the vampires spooch. So that's what's happening.
Quicksilver for $4.99 said, in DD Short's latest video that just posted quotes of WotC employee leaks, is it accurate? Are those sources reliable?
No comment.
There you go.
You know,
that's exactly what I expected.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, no comment. I'm sorry. I can't say anything about that.
Fool, Phule, for £5 says, morality is always a prospective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, that's one of the reasons why I think that, yeah, Wizards' morality clause is ultimately not good.
Yeah. I mean, it's different. It's different in every state, let alone every country. And it changes from year to year. So it's the definition of a moving target, and it has to go. It's simple.
It also comes after you and not just your work. So
right. It comes after you personally. Like, yeah, if we said something that someone didn't like in this YouTube video, we could be canceled. And
like for example, if Linda published a D&D thing in OGL 1.2 that was just completely friendly and just obviously didn't have anything in it, they could be like, well, in this thing, Linda just said stuff about a vampire fiction that sounded like a little bit too risque. Therefore,
it is risque.
Everything is getting canceled. That everything Linda's ever written is getting canceled at OGL 1.2.
right.
Honestly, if I get canceled for my smutty vampire fan fiction, I will be so proud of myself. Wow, I wrote erotica so erotic that like people tried to cancel my career. I'm just like, you know what? People are going to pay good money for this.
That's Streisand effect right there. You're going to become an international bestseller.
Yeah, I'm just like,
vampire books that Wizards doesn't want you to read.
Right.
I know. I would be so happy, actually. Like, cancel me, daddy. Just like wild. Oh man, that's so funny. But yeah, like you're right. You're totally right. It's one of those things, like, even if I write something that's like totally innocuous and then they realize like this dumbass writes vampire erotica on the weekends, like, let's cancel them forever. Like, yeah, they could do that. That's bad. It's bad.
Mm-hmm. Chaotic Tabris for $5. I don't know what the R dollar is. I've been trying to look some of these other ones up, but whatever R dollars is, says Wizards of the Coast is the same company that banned Eat the Rich from DM's Guild for using the word anti-capitalist.
Yeah, they did. I mean, that's the thing. Like, DM's Guild already has a lot of the restrictions on it that are in the 1.1. So not even the 1.2. In the 1.1 is very similar to the DM's Guild strings. So it's one of those things where people saw the 1.1 and are just like, we agree to this for other things, but it's kind of shit that they're making everyone agree to it, just because there's not like an option to not agree to it. Anyway,
they also banned Gay Strahd from DM's Guild too. Why? I don't remember what it was called, but I remember that they did. Jacob Donnelly for $5 says, Linda, what are your thoughts on how the OGL controversy is expanding awareness for other great systems that have been long overshadowed by D&D?
I think that people see that the dragon is weak and are like jumping in. Whether or not they can sustain this momentum remains to be seen. Whether or not they can capitalize fully on it remains to be seen. But I think that the fact that so many people are saying that they want to divest from playing Dungeons and Dragons and divest from Wizards of the Coast in general is really, really heartening. And I hope that more people will, like the GMs and DMs will like go to more systems, teach people more systems, and people will start to realize that if they learn like how Powered by the Apocalypse works, like this one system, they have access to dozens of games. So I think it's really exciting. And I think if people start learning systems instead of like specifically like learning games, or they like learn the ultimate game for like one system and then find all those other games that are made with that specific system. Again, Powered by the Apocalypse is one of my favorites, and it has like dozens of games that are really, really good. I think that people will be able to move away from Dungeons and Dragons. But the big thing, and the problem with indie RPGs in general, is that it's really hard for them to get discovered. And it's really hard for people to find them. And I think we mentioned this earlier before the stream started, but it's just like the struggle of a small independent artist. How does like a 2-person team compete with Dungeons and Dragons? Like, you can't. So I really, really hope that people invest time and energy in finding new systems, because they are going to have to find them. But they are out there, and there's so many, and they're amazing.
That makes sense. Let's see what else we have. June Solar says that Michael Tresca on Ian World put out a good summary of the Alta Fox thing as a comment. Knights of Last Call is here, and for $5 said the game design on the Razor's principal track being locked until they open up is great stuff.
Powered by the Apocalypse is full of like really great narrative hooks like that. It's really wonderful.
Warbear Prime for $5 Australian said, of all the game systems that you have each played, for the three of us, which system was your favorite system, and what was your favorite rule from that system?
Well, I'll fully say that like Powered by the Apocalypse is my favorite game system, because I think that so much of Powered by the Apocalypse relies on individual narrative tension, in order, like mechanized narrative tension, in a way that is very interesting, that I think is very well done. And it de-emphasizes combat, but it doesn't make combat not important. So I think that system, I think, is really, really good. It's hard to say like what rule from that system, because like I said, that Powered by the Apocalypse has Monster of the Week, it has Mass, it has Avatar, it has Bluebeard's Bride, it has Interstitial, Our Hearts Intertwined, a Kingdom Hearts Powered by the Apocalypse with an excellent podcast attached to it, where one of the characters is literally just Chris Angel, the Mind Freak. It's amazing. So it's and also Roxanne from that meme, Bitch, You Live Like This. She's also a main character. But the point is that Powered by Apocalypse is my favorite system, and I really appreciate the way that it centers narrative conflict in the game design.
What about you, Steven?
Well, I mean, I probably Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It's my favorite, and I love the rules. I just love how it's. I see behind, and you and I have obviously talked about it since you co-wrote the rules. I see the mechanisms behind the rules and why they were developed and how they work, and it's very beautiful. Like I see how the mechanisms work, so I really love that system, both from a game design point of view and from a gameplay point of view, and probably the 4 degrees of success. I do like the 3 action economy, but I actually prefer even more so the 4 degrees of success, because it makes every roll important, because you could always critically succeed and you could always critically fail, and every roll is important, as opposed to even when you're even when you're high level and you're doing an easy roll, you can fail it, something bad can happen, and everyone makes fun of you, and it is a lot of fun when that happens. Just having consequences for nearly every roll just really makes everyone invested in the game, and it just makes it a lot of fun. So, what's yours? You can't choose your own.
Well, no, that I couldn't. That's the thing. There's a lot of games that I like, including ones that I just make up in my spare time and then only run with Linda Zayas Palmer, not Linda Codega, other Linda. But Pathfinder 2nd Edition, obviously, every game designer has things they like and don't like about their own games that they've designed, and that they would do differently again if they made another game. But you can't, for me at least, I can't write that high of a percentage of a game like Pathfinder 2nd Edition without really also liking the game. And I feel very positive about it. So I'm going to pick it as my favorite game. Super biased. It's super unfair.
And let me guess, 4 degrees of success.
Yeah, well, I always pick 4 degrees of success.
Because you wrote it.
Because that was like my alpha doc. And there were a lot of things that I suggested that the rest of the design team was just like, oh, of course, that's amazing. We'll do that. And maybe any of them could have come up with or would have come up with if they were the one who was working on the other thing. But with 4 degrees of success, is initially like, I don't know, that does mean that there's like, it's not just binary. So it could make every roll take longer. It could be a little more complicated. But then they were like, you know what, though? It's a play test. Let's see. Let's find out for real with lots of people. So the team was very supportive, but I felt like that was one that I had to make my opinion known to sort of build support for it in the play test. And then people like it. So that makes me happy that it was good.
I want to interrupt. My mother just sent me a screenshot via text of me on the stream, so my mother is watching.
That's great. In our last stream, my
Hi,
dad
Mom.
did one of the super chats, and it was very embarrassing.
Oh, that's right. Your dad became a member. Ask your mom can become a member, and then she'll always know whenever we go live.
She'll figure it out.
At least like and subscribe. The bare minimum. The bare minimum. Come on, Mom.
I don't know if she has like a YouTube account. I know that she probably just followed the link on my Twitter, because she definitely follows me on Twitter.
Well, at least like it. I think only about a quarter of people have so far. That'll show more people this video.
Mark, do your parents make you sign your books and give them to you?
No, they do not. They do not make me sign them, but they did back the Eldamon Kickstarter at the maximum level. So like in my weekly family calls, my dad is like, when are our Eldamon plushies coming? I know you're still writing the books, but when are the plushies
They're almost
coming?
done. They're almost ready. They should be ready this month. At the end of the month, and then they're shipping out.
Except he's a super chatter. He's probably watching this already. So
there you go. Well, look, we have all the new pictures. I put up all new Eldamon. Yeah. None of these have been, maybe 1 or 2 have been revealed, but all new, brand new Eldamon.
I think we showed the biblically accurate angel once, maybe. They're good, though. Chase Street for $10 said, wouldn't the hateful content clause give WotC the right to just cancel whoever they want? Like an adventure where a townsfolk gets bumped off, WotC can say, well, killing a villager is hateful to villagers, and then cancel their license. Am I wrong?
Not wrong.
Yeah, they're not wrong. Like
Not
normally
wrong.
you could
Correct.
you could dispute that, except for in 1.2 as written, it's like you can't dispute it. We are the sole deciding factor of that. So yeah.
That's why no one wants it in there, because anyone
Yeah.
could decide what can be canceled for any reason, and there's no recourse at all. Anyhow.
So
Yeah.
for another one you probably can't answer, Chris Gordon for $5 says, "Can you talk about any work you've done with YouTubers such as Jenny D or D&D Shorts?"
I've DM'd with them, but that's really all I can say.
Oh wow. That's cool.
That's cool though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We've DM'd.
That's fun.
Yeah, that works. And by that you mean direct message and not that you like ran a game for them, because that would
Yes.
be
Yeah, sorry. Direct message.
Oh, I
the
thought you were
first
like,
thing that
I thought you were
I
actually playing a
thought
game with
of-
them. I was like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I thought you ran a game for Jenny D and D&D Shorts. I was like, why have I never seen this?
I know. I was like, wow, that's cool.
That.
I
Although, like, maybe one of them should
Well,
be.
chatting
if
with them is
you
cool,
said you
too.
don't play D&D a lot, but
I
Yeah.
don't. I like the last time I played D&D. It was in December, I think. It was December or November, but I literally had to ask, like, so initiative is a D20 plus my dexterity, right? And everyone's just like, Linda. And I'm like, I don't play this game. I play so many other games. I have like 3 home games happening. Like, I play so many games, but I don't play Dungeons. I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
fun.
sorry.
You don't have to be
I
sorry.
get it. Dexterity is just kind of random.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Pathfinder
It's-
2, you just roll whatever you were doing before the fight. So if you're like trying to lie to them, you roll deception to see what your initiative is going to be. And if you were like sneaking around, you roll stealth. So it's a little easier to remember. Let's see. For $5 Warbear Prime said, with all the new game systems coming out, which publisher gives you the highest hope for a great role-playing system publisher? And the ROL is all caps in that question.
I don't quite know what the pun is there.
I think they meant the
No,
role.
they may just be trying to focose more on the role part
role?
of role
The role in
playing
the
or something like
community.
that.
I think it's one of those things where the more systems out there, the more publishers out there, the better. I'm 100% in the camp of, if you want to play a game, figure out what kind of game you want to play and find the best system and the best game for it. I am not the kind of person who only wants to play one game and then alterations on that system or that one game in order to play everything. I'm very much the kind of person who's like, okay, I want to tell a story about the afterlife. I want to tell a story that's like involves missing memories. I want to tell a story about discovering and resolving past traumas. Like, if that's the kind of story I want to play, then there's games for that. And then there's people who are like, well, I want to play like a Western gunslinger that's like slightly horror and like dives into the cult. And I'm like, I have 10 games for you. I have 10 games that you could try. And some of them are powered by the Apocalypse system. Some of them are, Wretched and Alone. Some of them are like adjusted belonging, outside belonging. But the thing is that like, I think that you need to figure out what kind of game you want to play and like learn a game.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it just makes sense. So many indie games are really good for one genre, and they have rules that were just made to make that genre come to life in a way that like a kitchen sink game. Look, I love kitchen sink games. I just said Pathfinder 2 is my favorite. But an indie game that was built exactly for the one thing that you want, chances are it has some really good mechanics that will do exactly the thing that you want, more so than the one size fits all.
Yeah. So I think that the thing is like, those games are already out there and you just have to find them. Again, it's the issue of discovery that we talked about earlier. But I think that now that people are realizing that there are those games out there to discover, they will be like more invested in finding them.
So I'm just going to ask everyone to send in any last super chats, because I want to. At this point, we're going to wrap it up in like half an hour. So let's wrap up the super chats and do like and subscribe. Don't forget.
Should I keep going with the super chats that we have now? So Bonus Action Rainbow for £5 says, do you think OpenD&D is distracted trying to get 1.0A guaranteed? Do you think OpenD&D is asking the right questions of WotC? And if not, what should we ask?
I don't think that OpenD&D is distracted. I think that if a majority of the community feel like a strong stance on deauthorization is the way forward, then like that's the way forward. I think that like that won't go very far with WotC. I think that they've been consistent about deauthorization throughout all of their editions of the new OGL. But it is one of those things where it's like, if it's important to the community, like push for it. Like the worst thing that they can say is no. And they've been saying that for like the past 3 weeks. I think that it's one of those things where if enough people say something in the feedback form, that they will pay attention to it. So I think it's less about being distracted, because the distraction is really only happening on social media. I feel like a lot of people are going into the feedback form and actually like talking about it. So I think there's an illusion of distraction and an illusion of division, but I think that the real heart of the matter is like people are already putting in feedback, and I think that's where we'll see like how committed Wizards of the Coast is to deauthorization.
That makes sense. So Chase Street for $5 had a joke question. Is an orc beating up on a wizard considered hateful content? Then Stephen Wong for $4.99 retracted a message. And Cranky Elder God for $6.66 said, how much D&D revenue comes from traditional books versus D&D Beyond, which gives immediate revenue feedback to the suits?
That's kind of impossible for me to say, because they only acquired Dungeons and Dragons Beyond May of last year. So they haven't filed anything. There's like nothing for me to FOIA. There's nothing for me to like dig up. I really don't know what the percentages they are, but I do know that like Wizards of the Coast, I think, makes up more than 30% of Hasbro's profits.
Yeah.
But that's really the only hard statistic
I
know.
thought it was 72%.
I thought it was more. It was
72%.
a smaller percent of revenue, but it was
It's
a really high
27%
percent of profits.
Yeah, it's like 21. It's like 20. It's either 21 or 27% of revenue, but profit it's like 72%.
Got it. Yeah, it's something bonkers. It's something like Wizards of the Coast is their main
it is,
maker.
and they're actively losing money. That's not uncommon, and that's why they were asked to split into two companies, is that when one division takes off and then it's actually supporting some of their losing brands. And we've discussed this on the show quite a bit. And if you're way more interested in this, go look at the Alita Fox. They put out a lot of articles about this in exquisite detail, saying why Wizards should be broken out. And now everyone's aware of this.
An explanation,
which
we on our stream, and Steven made it into a short video clip that you can watch. It essentially comes down to once you split Hasbro from Wizards, Wizards is still going to be worth the same amount it was before, and Hasbro is not going to be actually worth negative. So for investors, when they get to do that split, it's very good for them, because they will now have their money will suddenly become more money.
Yeah, Wizards is basically holding up Hasbro at this point.
So Stephen Wong for $4.99 said, thanks, I love fanfic. Should I check out your vampire fanfic, and where?
Oh, yeah.
No, absolutely not.
Okay. You sure? If you give us a link.
No, I'm not linking to my smutty vampire fanfic, because then you will find like all of my smutty fanfiction, and some of it's not very good.
Wow. So you love to write, but you don't want anyone to read it?
I mean, I have a literary agent, and I've written multiple novels, and my literary agent has those novels, and she is trying to sell them. So it's one of those things where like the book that I'm writing right now is like bordering on smutty. I described the main character as incandescently horny.
Wow.
So we'll see how far that one goes.
I think you just violated the morality clause. I'm sorry.
That was potentially harmful or obscene or whatever the things are. I don't know. Anyway, Ismail Thompson for $4.99 says, what's your opinion on Castles and Crusades? Hearing a lot about it. Just join the chat.
I've never played it. I don't know. No opinion.
Fool for £5 said, is Hasbro trying to remove tabletop RPGs in favor of a role-playing computer game?
I think that the acquisition of D&D Beyond in 2022 proves that they are actively looking into virtual offerings as like their next investment strategy. Beyond that, I can't really say.
That makes sense. Then Darren Osborne for $10 says, OGL is the license for the SRD. If game mechanics can't be copywritten, why aren't all the rules lawyers banding together to rewrite a new SRD that doesn't violate copyright? Also, can I help?
Well, you're right. Rule mechanics can't be copywritten, but wording of rules can. And I think that ultimately, like, I don't want another D&D retro clone. I'm sorry. Like, it's a combat simulator. Pathfinder does that just fine. 100 other games do that just fine. I'm sure that there are people out there like trying to basically make D&D without making D&D, but I'm very likely not interested in it. Also, like there's this really, really small game called Knave, Knave, that is everything you love about Dungeons and Dragons fit into like 4 pages. Just play Knave. If you don't want to like play Dungeons and Dragons, but you want to play Dungeons and Dragons, play Knave.
There you go. Also, apparently, I'm now getting to the point in chat where your mom was watching. Like 10 people said, "Hi, Linda's mom." Like,
hi, Linda's mom. She's funny. I like her a lot.
Jedi Dragon Protector for $5 said, hero points are awesome in Pathfinder 2. Reroll failures into a success or get even worse failures or the same results. Let me see what else we have here. Einstein Schotveit said, for 20 Norwegian krona, said, what worries you most about the future of RPGs?
I don't know if I'm worried about the future of RPGs, honestly. Like, if the Dragon Company decides to do something weird, like, that sucks. But I think that the past 2 to 3 weeks have proven that RPGs are going to be fine. You know, tabletop role-playing games have so many other systems. There's so many other companies. There's so many people involved in various tabletop role-playing game communities. I think that the RPG environment is going to be like totally fine without Dungeons and Dragons. It'll be a bummer for a lot of people. I think that like Dungeons and Dragons hold a special place in a lot of people's hearts, and I'm not trying to discount the connection that people have to that game. But I don't think that Wizards of the Coast is necessary for people to play a game or love a game. And I don't think Wizards of the Coast is necessary for the future of RPGs.
Yeah, I just want to call out something. I don't know if you saw this, Mark Owen, Casey Stevens. Was it Owen? No, it wasn't Owen. It was Jason Bowman wrote something about how...
Oh, yeah, thread.
Yeah, his thread was very interesting about how he identified himself so closely with Dungeons and Dragons that when he had to divest from it, it physically hurt him, and how you have to not put yourself so into one game or one system or one company, and that, you know, it can be harmful in the long run. And that, you know, he goes on to explain how this is a good opportunity to open up your, you know, eyes, try out different systems, you know, and, you know, you're not defined by your game. You know, that doesn't have to define your personality. And I think that's why a lot of people are upset and sad and mad, because they do identify themselves by a specific game.
Which is like totally understandable. And I think at points even reasonable. Like, you've invested so much of yourself in this game. Like, the people at your table are your friends and your spouses and your children and like the people that you've grown up with. Like, I get it. It's one of those things where I think a lot of people are coming to the violent and kind of horrible realization that Dungeons and Dragons is owned by a multi-billion-dollar company that doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is that whenever you get tied up into something, I mean, you know, I know a lot of people who really were tied into Star Wars, and, you know, as the new movies started to come out and more things came out, became harder and harder for them to, integrate the new lore into their past memories as a child. And it's dangerous to wrap yourself so much into one product. And I think what Jason was saying is just, if you want to wrap yourself into the industry and into role playing in general, that's fine. There's lots of options, but don't limit yourself to any one game.
Don't make a brand or a company your identity, is what he was saying, because
Absolutely.
you can't trust that brand or company in the future necessarily.
Yeah, it's Jason Bullman if you're looking for the Twitter thread.
Yeah, I'm seeing people in the chat asking for like certain kinds of games. Like I saw someone asking to be like a pro wrestler. I have like 3 games for pro wrestlers.
Wow.
You guys can just like, I don't know, find a way to @ me on Twitter, and I will do my like tweet me. I am so online. I will happily send you recommendations. Like genuinely, I love indie games. I have so many. I have some on my desk right now. You can tweet me and I will give you at least 2 to 3 recommendations for sure.
Is there a good one for being like a luchador?
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
There are multiple games for being luchadors.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I know there are, but
why not?
I would love that. I would love to play a luchador game.
Okay. There's also games like with luchador playbooks.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, so lots of options.
No, I'm gonna DM
there we go,
you right
Steven.
after this.
I'm gonna have to run one of those games for you as a luchador now.
Well, then we have to have Luis on the stream.
Well, we need to have Luis
and
as
Ryan.
a luchador. Luis has done so many luchador things for Pathfinder.
He has, I know.
So that's Luis Loza.
Yep.
Yeah. If anyone ever wants a recommendation, you can always say like, "Hey, at Linda Codega, I need a luchador game," and I'll be like, "I got you," and give you 3.
Damn. So Linda's new tweet is Linda's RPG Corner, where she just
rule of 3s. It's like a new internet rule. If you have any genre, even if it's a subgenre, Linda will find you 3 indie RPGs that are in that genre, even if the genre is just named Fishblade.
I was going to say, what about Fishblade? What about Fishblade?
That are named Fishblade.
There are at least 5 Fishblade RPGs at this point.
There you go.
I think we have 2 super chats left.
Bonus Action Rainbow for £2 said, if you could interview whoever you wanted to at WotC, what would be your top 3 questions you would ask?
Yikes.
Talk about like an job interview type question where they give you those kind of.
This is hard. I'm not going to name names, but I think that I would really want to know what the hierarchy is at WotC because it's murky. So I would want to know, and I'm sort of thinking like from a PR perspective, like just general questions. I would want to know like the hierarchy at Dungeons and Dragons and like who's really in charge of what. I think that would be really interesting. I would want to know about their diversity efforts, like as a non-binary transgender person myself, that's something that's really close to home. And I've heard not great things about their DEI efforts. So I'd like to know more about that and where that funding is going. Or if there's funding, I think that would be really interesting. Yeah. And I think that I would also really want to know what their specific plans are in the virtual space. So sort of like big general questions. I definitely have like a lot of specific questions, but I feel like those are too call outy to put on the internet forever. But those are 3 general questions that I stand behind.
That makes sense. Organizational charts are just so confusing. Even like at my time at Paizo, things shifted around and nobody knew in the fandom what anything stood for. So I made videos that were just like, this is the org chart of the creative department of Paizo. Look at how the book goes through the process. I will point you to where it is. We're starting at the beginning in each of these teams, and like had like a flow chart for it. And now if we went back to that video, it would just be wrong in a lot of ways because it's already changed since then. It's rough. Merlin Dex for $2 says, quickly nerds, find Linda's oldest stuff on AO3.
If you could. Okay, here's the thing. I'm not going to give you any hints. I'm not going to tell you where to find it. It is on AO3, obviously, because that's where it is for everyone. If you do find my AO3 username, just like keep it to yourself. You know, enjoy at your leisure. I hope you have a good time. But just like, you know, you're in the fan fiction family now, and we don't spread that around. I'm a proud fan fiction writer, but please just keep it on AO3. That's all I ask.
Look up smutty vampires.
Steven, you will not be finished for like 2,000 years if that's what you look up. Because there's more than 2,000 years worth of content on that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Building Persephone for £5 said Wizards invested millions of dollars and aren't throwing that away. Players must decide, play official D&D or no D&D. Best case is 5e in 1.0a.
Okay.
Yeah, that seemed like a comment. Chase Street for $5 said, how about a naughty vampire RPG? Also, did mom know about this naughty vamp fiction before this stream? Lol.
Oops.
She might have. I don't know.
Now she does.
She follows me on Twitter, and I am not shy on Twitter. And I've told her before, and so is my father. We have both warned her, Robin, one day you are going to find something out about your child that you don't want to know. And she's like, that's the risk I'm willing to take to be close to my baby. And I'm like,
there you go.
Whatever you want to do, Mom. So
now we know another reason why you didn't give the link to it on the stream, because your mom was watching the stream. And
yeah, well,
it would be very awkward.
Yes, because if I know anything about my mother, I know that she would click on it just to like check it out. I'm just like, Mom, no. Like, Mom, please don't do this to yourself.
Would she come to you and be like, I have some notes on this?
No, I don't think she would. My father probably would, though. My father gave me notes on my novel. I was just like, thanks, Dad. So my father probably would. Yeah, I'm not really that embarrassed about it at all. It's just very funny to me.
So if you played Vampire the Masquerade,
yes,
what would you be? What clan?
There are so many, I can't remember any of them, but there was one that was very much like, we just want to party and have fun in the moment. And I forget which one that is.
Is that Toreador that are like randomly?
Well, there was Toreador,
glamorous stuff.
There was Toreador. There was Venture. That's who I would be. That's like the ruling class.
Ventru?
Yeah, Ventru. And then there was Malkavian.
Those are like the noble aristocrat ones, right?
Right. The Malkavians were like the crazy ones.
Oh, that sounds right. I'll be one of them. Yes. I'll be one of the crazies. It's one of those things like Lost Boys was like a gender.
Oh, Bruja, and the Bruja right. too. I forgot about the Bruja.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, the Bruja are a little. Yeah, they also are like that. But the what was it Malkavian or those guys are just they're crazy. They're like they're the ones
Bruja
that just
like warriors that are like strong and they're gonna beat you up.
Yeah. But Malkavians are just scary. Like they are the definition of chaotic. Like they're just pure chaos. Like they're very scary. So no one ever.
I would do something that really just like had fun.
Yeah, the Lost Boys are the Bruja. That's right.
Yeah, okay, then I'd be a Bruja. Like Lost Boys is like peak vampire fiction for me.
Really?
There you go.
Oh my god, I just got a text from my mom.
Gotta read it.
She's so funny. I love her so much. I am a professional Linda stalker. I'm proud of all I've seen. Who knows what she's seen? My mother's adorable. She's very funny. But yeah, I don't know, man. Whatever. It's one of those things where I'm just like, I don't care anymore. I'm like 32, but I've reached the point I'm like, I cannot be embarrassed by my mother anymore. I really can't.
That's about when it happens. Like the 30s. It's like, eh.
It happened for me around 25, I think. But yeah, really? Fully embracing it in my 30s. Hi, Linda's mom.
So, do you have any other questions, Mark, that you want to... we could always have Linda on again, especially in another few weeks when things change and who knows what's going to happen by then. I'm sure we'll be able to cover all the rock stories. I'm following them closely.
On the rock beat.
You're on the rock beat. Were you upset that Black Adam isn't going to have any sequels?
No, man. Who the fuck cares about Black Adam?
Your readers.
I don't know. I'm sorry. Like, don't worry, Black Adam fans. There will be hundreds of new superhero films the next 2 to 3 years. You won't miss anything.
Yeah, but isn't The Rock going to be in any of them?
They're all interchangeable. It does not matter.
Truer words were never spoken, I think. So what should we be on the lookout? Is there anything other than the video that you have coming in a few days? Anything else?
What about the NPR interview?
And the NPR interview, right? You have the NPR interview.
Yeah. So I was interviewed for a segment on All Things Considered, on NPR's All Things Considered, that will hopefully air tomorrow sometime. I'll get a link and I'll get information, so I'll post about that. I have the interview with Critical Role that will hopefully go up in full. That's about 30-minute sit down interview with them, which I don't think that they really do. So very excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm excited. That's really the big things. I have a couple investigations that I'm working on. I have a big investigation into Anne Rice that has been on the back burner for like 2 months, which is really, really sad for me. But yeah, that's really it. I have like stuff that's like cooking that I can't really talk about because it's like unannounced, but I'm working on games and stuff. I'm a games writer, I promise.
Are you smelling what The Rock is cooking? Is that what you just said?
No.
Oh, we could do this all day. This is so much fun.
Yeah, I will. So I need to like fidget with things when I am doing interviews, even when I'm like conducting interviews. But I wanted to share this one. My brother made this for me. It's a little D20. And I don't know if you can see, but there's a little paper boat, origami paper boat.
Wow. He made that himself?
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, all my family is like engineers except for me. I'm like the weird little writer in the corner.
So here's the engineer question for you. Is it actually a balanced D20 that rolls evenly among things, or does the boat and the stuff inside of it actually throw it off a little bit? And have you tested? Or did your brother test and give you that information?
I don't think he tested it, but I think that as I am not a competition Dungeons and Dragons player, no one is going to test me for accuracy. But yeah,
if you ever, my little brother made this. Do the float test if you want to find out. You can look it up.
I'll have to look that. Yeah, that's just when you like put it in salt water.
Right, you put it in salt water and you let it float, and as long as it doesn't like list to one side, it's balanced. So.
Yeah, well, it might. I think that if I did the float test, I would figure that out pretty quickly, as both my brother and my father are naval architects, so they design boats for a living.
Wow. So you can hold that over them forever if it's not.
Yeah, that'd be really funny. And my mother. Hi, Mom. Hi, Linda's mom.
Your mom is so popular in the comments.
Well, they're great.
Calling her Codega Genesis.
Fun fact, my mother actually didn't take my dad's last name, so they're wrong. But
that's wrong.
Damn, so now we can see where that comes from, the fiery.
My mother's a total badass. She was in the Navy for 26 years.
Holy moly.
So if you want, you can call her Captain.
Wow.
There you go.
Captain, Genesis Captain or something.
I think WotC.
Okay, Steven, you said we could have Linda on for another interview, but what about Linda's mom?
Sure.
She's the one who's popular in the comments.
Yeah, we have a couple of veterans. That we play with. We can have Lauren on. She was a tanker. We could have Linda's mom on. I know a couple of other vets.
Captain Linda's mom.
Yeah, Captain Linda's mom. Yeah. Yeah, that would be
Captain
cool.
Mom. Yeah.
Does she play games? Is she a gamer?
She doesn't really play role-playing games, but she is very good at cards. She used to be a dealer at a casino to make ends meet in college.
Totally counts.
And she has recently gotten into mahjong.
My wife plays Mahjong weekly. Yes, it is.
So she's
very,
she taught me how to play. I was very bad.
hard. It's very hard.
Yes, so I'm gonna be practicing. So when the next time we hang out, like I can actually play with her.
Yeah, get some good apps. Not only is it hard, but the rules change every year, so you always have to learn the new hands. It's
right.
a very tough game. It's good, but damn, is it hard.
Well, people are saying that they unironically want Captain Linda's mom.
Yes. Captain Linda's mom.
I'm sure that she'll text me about that.
And we could do a live stream of Mahjong. Mahjong. We could all play together.
Yeah,
that would be riveting.
She likes Mahjong. She likes puzzles. She's, retired. She retired from like the Navy, and then she retired from like her consulting job afterwards. So yeah, she's free, available, but it cannot interfere with her water aerobics, like hardline.
Wow.
Or her pickleball classes.
Oh, pickleball! Everyone's doing the pickleball.
It's so funny.
He's one of the converts.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, people love it.
Several people said they subscribe now just in case.
Thank you, Captain.
Just in case.
Captain Linda.
Captain Linda's mom.
Yeah, I don't know her last name, so I'll just call her Captain Linda.
Hitteman. Captain Hitteman.
Captain Hitteman. There you go.
Captain Hitteman. If you want to see Captain Hitteman on this channel in the near future playing Mahjong, riveting. Let me tell you, it's going to be fun.
She's very funny. So she's great. But yeah,
pickleball?
That's
people
all
don't know
I
what
have to say.
pickleball is. Oh my!
It's kind of like squash, but like on a court instead of in like a little fenced-in area.
It's the fastest growing sport in the world. It is insane how fast everyone plays it now.
To me, it's like always the thing that like your like slightly more bougie neighbors or relatives are playing when they can't you're like, I can't make that. I have a pickleball thing.
I play pickleball. Are you calling me bougie?
There you go.
I guess that answers that question. Well, Chase Street actually said, can we all watch you play Mahjong as Linda reads her vampire fiction to us?
No, hard line of vampire fiction. I'm happy to admit to it, but that's it.
One day. Well, if you get published, you should get some feelers out there. I definitely know book publishers that are following you 100%. So
yeah,
now's the time to start putting it out there.
I have a literary agent. She's taking care of it.
Got it. Okay.
It's one of the reasons why I know that there's a lot of ways to get published, and they're all incredibly valid.
Mm-hmm.
But I am not interested in marketing my book.
Right.
So that's why I'm just I want to do traditional publishing. So that's why
traditional publishing, sit back, let them do all the work. You just write, they do everything else.
Fingers crossed.
You show for interviews. You could write your own press. And then you hopefully hope to become so big one day that some other person, some other journalistic websites I'm on the Linda Codega beat. I gotta write whenever she says something. I hate it. And it all comes full circle. It would be the best
if The Rock was on the Linda Codega beat.
Well, it's full circle. God, it's full circle.
Okay. My mother has texted. Steven is invited to where she lives to play pickleball and mahjong.
I play I've been playing tennis for 40 years, and I just started to play pickleball, and I still prefer tennis, but I am liking pickleball. And as I said, my parents played mahjong, and my wife plays it weekly, and I play once in a while. I'm not that good at it yet.
I want to get good so that when I play with mom, I don't make a fool of myself. The problem is that again, all of my family are engineers. So of course, when I played with me, my little brother, and my mom, they can count cards. They've been able, my little brother has been able to count cards since he was 14.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just there really? Jim? And they're like, that's not how you play mahjong, Linda. And I'm like, so they're very, very good at math, and so it lends itself to mahjong very easily.
Yes.
So someone in chat was wondering, you said there's always 3 indie RPGs. Are there any mahjong or pickleball indie RPGs that you could play with your mom?
I don't know if there's pickleball specific RPGs, but there's definitely sports RPGs that you could use for pickleball. There's one called Volley Boys, which is like volleyball, but that's very easily translated into pickleball. So I'm sure you could.
Well, I'm sure by tomorrow there'll be 3 published that someone whips up just because we mentioned it on the internet. Because that's
Powered by Fishblade.
Powered by Fishblade. Powered by the apocalypse.
Powered by Fishblade. Yep.
Pickleball and mahjong. And if we can get your mother's name in there somehow as like the name of the system, I think that would force your mom to learn.
That'd be very funny.
That would be. But
I mean, like I run a Dungeons and Dragons game for my mom and my dad.
Oh my God.
It was very fun. It was also a disaster because they literally just spent the whole time trying to flirt with each other.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, this is the worst thing in the world.
That sounds like a nightmare on multiple levels.
It was one of those things where I was like, okay, we're going to like do the classic, you're in a tavern, like stuff happens. And my dad goes and is like, I want to flirt with the hot elf at the bar. And I'm just like, that's my mother.
Oh no.
Oh,
so,
or which is worse. Otherwise, they would have to flirt with you, his daughter, as the GM.
He doesn't have to flirt with anyone. There was an option to not flirt.
Well, you just told us a lot about your family, and
there's an option to not flirt. And my dad was like, "No, I want to flirt with a hot elf." Wow. And I'm like, "Roll," and I'm just like, and he failed the roll. And I'm like, Mark, "You try."
Mark, are there hot chicks there? Am I drunk yet?
I ran for my parents and it was not as bad as that because, I played for decades and they were like, now that this is your career, I guess, like we'll play to see what this thing is that you've been running in the basement when you were in high school and whatever. And so they did. They played a few Pathfinder Society scenarios.
Wow.
And it was fine. They made it through. They kept saying that even though they succeeded at the adventures, they were like, we only were able to do it because you told us what to do. By which I mean, like they would select an approach or be like, okay, I'm going to convince them. I'd like, okay, roll a diplomacy check. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they'd be like, well, you just told us what to do. Like they would think that like, because I gave them the mechanic on their sheet to point to because it was a pre-generated character, that meant that was like controlling their character. I was like, no, you actually did decide what to do. I was just telling you where to look on your sheet. And so they underestimated their ability to solve it, I think. My favorite part, though, was one of the adventures had like reviews online that were like, it's too hard even for experienced players to play. And it was like, my parents don't know what they're doing. And they played pre-generated characters that were like really underpowered pre-gens. They easily won. So I have a feeling I just don't know what's happening in these other tables.
I don't know. Now I'm a little afraid to play with your mom after hearing all that.
With Linda's Linda's mom.
Linda's mom.
I'm definitely not playing any RPGs,
Captain
I'll tell you
Linda's
that much.
Mom,
Captain Linda's mom.
Linda's
I'm
mom.
definitely not playing any RPGs with them, I'll tell you that much.
Fair enough.
All right.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Linda, for joining us. I think the second part was more illuminating than the first part in many ways.
More personally illuminating, for sure.
Definitely.
Right. Well, we'll try to get to know people who were on the show. And also people who aren't on the show, like your mom.
Like my mother.
Like your mom and your brother.
And my brother.
Oh.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, my brother's very fun. He's an avid Dungeons and Dragons player. He has a couple home games. I've played with him and his girlfriend before. But yeah, he probably has played Dungeons and Dragons more than I have, frankly.
Now I have to know.
Yeah.
Now I have to know, what is his opinion about like you breaking this gigantic story about Dungeons and Dragons?
I don't know. He hasn't texted me.
Ooh.
Oh wow! Even
Linda's mom, get on that. Yell at the son to text Linda. Bad son.
Even I have two brothers. One of them also plays tabletop RPGs, and the other one just like despises them, and he's always like, "It's so nerdy. Let me go back to my fantasy sports where I'm running all of these spreadsheets and numbers, which is not nerdy." And even that brother had a take on the OGL and had looked at things. So I find that's very interesting.
It's very typical for my brother. He's just not very communicative in that way. That's just it. It's one of those things where it's just like, this isn't surprising to me.
Well, now we got
I might text him
Captain
and be like,
Robin Mahjong on the beat. Get Linda's brother.
Get Linda's brother, text them.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a busy boy. But yeah, it's really funny. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I'm not gonna read that text aloud. That's from my mom.
Oh, I guess it runs in the family. The racy vampire fanfic.
No. This isn't about race. It's funny, but it's a little mean. So I'm not gonna say it out loud.
It's probably about your brother, or
I guess we'll find out later. Who knows?
Okay.
All right,
we love him.
Thanks.
He's a great boy.
Thanks, Linda. Check out their interview with Critical Role. Their interview on NPR tomorrow. That's going to be fun. True. I love NPR. And I'm sure you're going to have lots of stories. I'm going to thumbs up and forward every rock story you publish just to make sure. I want those clickbacks.
Steven, what are you doing?
I want more rock clickbacks than Hasbro clickbacks. That would be the ultimate.
Horrible. Again, I am very online. I'm on Twitter at Lynn Codega, Codega. I will happily recommend you games. I love talking to people. I am funny, maybe. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Stephen and Mark. Thank you. This was really fun.
I'm glad.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Get some sleep.
Never.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Everyone.